A federal judge has just blocked Trump's effort to unilaterally freeze aid, issuing a temporary stay while the litigation plays out. This is a welcome sign of relief after Trump and his Office of Management and Budget announced a pause on all federal assistance. The immediate consequence of that decision, Medicaid funding, among a raft of other programs, has been frozen. Senator Wyden took to Twitter and wrote, "My staff has confirmed reports that Medicaid portals are down in all 50 states following last night's federal funding freeze. This is a blatant attempt to rip away health insurance from millions of Americans overnight and will get people killed." These claims have been verified by other senators. For example, Chris Murphy wrote, "In Connecticut, the Head Start reimbursement system is shut down. Preschools cannot pay staff and will need to start laying off staff very soon and sending little kids home." Maxwell Alejandro Frost wrote, "We've been on the phone with multiple agencies and organizations. They've been completely cut off from federal money. We're talking about housing, homeless services, public safety, etc. Just so we're clear about who's impacted here, according to Medicaid.gov, nearly 80 million people in the U.S. were enrolled in Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program, CHIP, in October 2024. Of those enrolled in either program, more than 37 million were children. Donald Trump decided to punish 80 million Americans, including 37 million children, all of whom are sick because healthcare was apparently not important enough to Donald Trump and the billionaires in his cabinet. Notice too, it was Medicaid that was blocked, not Medicare. Why? Because Medicare serves a more reliable voting bloc than Medicaid. Medicaid recipients are low-income folks and children who don't vote at the same levels as seniors. This was a political calculation. The Trump administration was willing to cut health care for poor people because they don't exercise their political power to the same degree as seniors, who they spared because they do exercise their political power. In other words, they allowed seniors to keep their health care because they didn't want to suffer any political consequences, but were perfectly content to strip health care away from poor people. Even veterans groups are being impacted. According to Jeff Stein from the Washington Post, a Northern California nonprofit that provides emergency funds to help homeless veterans has been completely cut off from federal money. They warned that homeless veterans will get hurt if their grants are frozen, which appears likely under the OMB order. Recognizing the backlash, the OMB tried to clarify its position, issuing a memo writing that any program providing direct benefits to Americans is explicitly excluded from the pause. But the first problem here is that by being forced to issue this clarification, that is a tacit admission that the initial guidance did, in fact, freeze aid to these programs. One might think that when you get caught trying to strip healthcare funding away from Americans that had already been allocated by Congress, you might show some contrition. But that's not what Trump's team decided to do. His press secretary Carolyn Leavitt expressed uncertainty as to what was even going on. Republican Congressman Rich McCormick outright cheered on the move, applauding the elimination of free lunches for low-income kids. He said, "How many people got their start in fast food restaurants when they were kids, versus just giving a blanket rule that gives all kids lunches in high school who are capable of going out and getting a job?" What we're learning right now is that Republicans are not in power to help the most vulnerable in this country. They are there to help the least vulnerable. They are there to serve as a boon for the wealthiest Americans. If you thought you were voting for lower egg prices, that was the window dressing. This is what the Trump administration looks like in practice. In the meantime, contact your senators and tell them to vote no on Russ Vought for OMB director. This shouldn't be a partisan issue. We do not live in a monarchy. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe.